done. You see? Backshots are not that hard to beat. Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Sparking Zero guide video. This time around I'm going to talk about how to defend yourself against backshots. A lot of you were asking in my defensive guide video about how to protect yourself when the enemy player is behind you, so I have decided to gather all the possible ways to protect yourself. Before I get into the video, I just wanna say that yes, the best solution is to just super counter, but most people are not that good to pull off a super counter consistently. Therefore, I will explain the other solutions so you will have every opportunity to fight back. Also, I just want to point out that only 1% of you guys are actually subscribed to my channel. I would really appreciate it if you consider subscribing to the channel, like for real, for real. The first option and probably my most used technique is to just sidestep. Whenever someone tries to Dragon Dash behind you, it takes time to get there. Sometimes they get there quickly, sometimes it takes a bit of a time. But one thing that definitely helps you out is if you start sidestepping. As the name suggests, you should step out to the left or right, because if you sidestep front or backwards, you will still be in the range to whatever your opponent throws at you. Not to mention that most casual players that just found out about the buttons to Dragon Dash behind you will always mash 9 times out of 10. Of course, just because you're sidestepping, that doesn't mean you're perfectly safe. If your opponent usually just mashes, then sidestep and start doing your own combo. Or if your opponent is notorious of waiting for you to attack even after Dragon Dash, then just sidestep and grab them. This technique is also good against like pretty much every other close combat attacks, so this is not the only reason why I'm pulling up sidesteps. Please start learning them. A bit less successful option against backshots is to ki blast your opponent and start moving away. I know you don't always have enough ki, but a well-timed ki blast is good enough against backshots. And if your opponent decides not to mash, but to just Dragon Dash behind you and wait for your move, you're effectively giving yourself a bit more time to think of what to do next, since most players don't just start deflecting ki blasts when they are in your face. Again, after the ki blast, start moving away. If you stay there, you are going to get punished right after your ki runs out. Another consistent way to avoid backshots is to ascend or descend while someone is trying to get behind you. Since you're gonna need as many options as possible, if you start ascending as an answer against backshots, then you're gonna give another option for your opponent to think about. Meaning, if they are used to your sidesteps and ki blasts, you'll have to keep holding R2 and either L1 to ascend or L2 to descend. That will definitely mix them up. Not to mention, changing what height you fight your opponent against can also be a bit disorientating, so you don't always need to use this against backshots. It is good in general. Now, a bit trickier move to mix up your opponent is to either switch out to another character during their dash, or to just transform to another level. Because this move stops time, it gives you more than enough time to think during the animations, and it also mixes up casual players. There has been so many times when a random opponent just kept standing still right after these animations. That being said, good players will fight back after the animation, so don't always count on disorientating noob players. Bonus advice! Have you ever been hit by an unblockable ultimate? I've talked about stopping time during transformations. This works perfectly against that as well. You will be invincible for like a second or so right after the transformation ended, meaning if you don't have the time to run away after Majin Vegeta's ultimate, but you do have the skill point to transform, then it might be a good idea to just do that and run away after the cutscene ended. A bit more situational move to fight off backshots is just fight the mash with mashing. Since the characters got different moveset, this is not as reliable as the prior examples, but if you know how fast your opponent's character's moveset is compared to your character's, then you might as well try it. Now, while I did want to avoid counter mechanics, I cannot finish this video off without mentioning them, so you can also just revenge counter or vanish the backshots. Those are far easier to pull off than super counters. Now, to get on to the last advice against backshots, you can always just use some sort of technique that costs skill point. There are 3 techniques that you definitely need to master, all 3 of which I have covered in another video. Do make sure to check out that for more details, but the short recap of that video is that you can either use Wild Sense, After Image and After Image Strike. All 3 of these techniques make you automatically vanish right after an attack, But yeah, these 3 techniques got their own advantages and disadvantages. Do make sure to watch yesterday's video to know what I'm talking about. Next to these techniques, there's also solar flare, for example, but that one needs to get timed. It's not as easy as just pressing a button and you'll be fine. No, you will need to time that. And yeah, just because the enemy player is blind, that does not mean they are fully incapacitated. They can still fight you, just not as effectively as if they actually saw you. Because ki is one of the most important elements at landing backshots, I also recommend you to try wasting your opponent's ki. Anytime you get the chance to guard normal attacks from your opponent, try to sonic sway them as much as possible, since that counter reduces your opponent's ki drastically. Meaning the enemy player will have less chance to do backshots, and basically anything that requires ki, he will need to recharge it, and if you force him to keep charging, you will get the upper hand. Those are my advices of how to fight off backshots. As I have said, the best counter is still to just super counter them, but I thought I would give a bit more casual answer, so you won't have to solely rely on something that's one of the hardest counter mechanic of the game. The other day I have talked about 3 techniques that are essential to master in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. They are the key to winning more ranked games, so if you wanna rank up easier, then do make sure to check out this video. That's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I hope you all have had a fantastic day, stay safe, until next time, boys. Peace!